Mercedes already failing in 2023. The first race of the season was a disaster for Mercedes, and it looks like the team is ready for some changes. Wolff and Russell were very sure that the no-pod side pod design would bring the team back to glory and success, but the reality check in Bahrain has been a cold shower for the Silver Arrows. Now, after Aston Martin beat them in Bahrain, they're barely in the running for P3, and Wolff has hinted that the W14 will get definite changes later in the season. After a crazy 2022 season, Mercedes stuck to their guns and kept their unique zero side pod design. However, during the Sakir weekend, they were behind Red Bull, Ferrari and Aston Martin. Mercedes had a bad day, but the surprising rise of Aston Martin overshadowed it. Thanks to the troubled 2022 car, Mercedes is finally seeing how far it has fallen behind in the last year. At the end of FP2, Hamilton was 8th, behind drivers from Aston Martin, Red Bull Racing, Ferrari, Haas and Alpine. George Russell didn't even make it into the top 10, so he had to settle for 13th. Even though Hamilton was only 0.636 seconds behind the leader, which was about a tenth more than in FP2 in Bahrain last year, the Briton was most worried about his long-run speed, which was far behind both Alonso and Verstappen. This made him feel bad about the race and even the rest of the season. On Sunday in Sakir, Max Verstappen led a 1-2 ahead of Sergio Perez, and Red Bull dominated easily. In the first race of 2023, Lewis Hamilton could only finish 5th, and his teammate George Russell came in 7th. Hamilton crossed the finish line 50.977 seconds after Verstappen, who was a strong favourite to win his 3rd straight title. Hamilton has won the F1 World Championship 7 times. He said that Mercedes is now the 4th best car after Max Verstappen's team beat them by 50 seconds at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Mercedes has been having trouble with type wear all weekend on the rough track surface in Bahrain. Hamilton said before the race that the team didn't know what was going on with their race runs. Toto Wolff said that Mercedes made mistakes with the design of the not good enough W14 car and promised a change of focus. Mercedes seems to have gotten off to another bad start after qualifying 6th and 7th for the first race of the season in Bahrain. Even though the team made a lot of progress between Friday practice and Saturday qualifying, Max Verstappen's Red Bull was still faster by a few tenths. Wolff said after the qualifying round that he doesn't think the car will be good enough to compete. "I don't think this package is going to be competitive eventually," Wolff told media. "We gave it our best go over the winter, and now we just need to all regroup, sit down with the engineers who are totally not dogmatic about anything, there are no holy cows, and decide what is the development direction that we want to pursue in order to be competitive to win races. It's not only like last year that you're scoring many podiums and eventually you get there. I'm sure we can win races this season, but it's really the mid and long term that we need to look at and which decisions we need to take. The moment comes when the stopwatch comes out, and that showed us that it's simply not good enough. We never got enough downforce." Wolff added that Mercedes would look into a variety of options in order to assess the correct development path, including a move away from their zero side pod approach. Sure enough, he was right. Mercedes did fail hard on Sunday, finishing 5th and 7th place. The downbeat Toto Wolff labelled the F1 Bahrain Grand Prix his worst day in racing, and insisted a radical Mercedes upgrade must arrive with urgency. "One of the worst days in racing," team principal Wolff said to Sky. "Not good at all. We are lacking pace front, right and centre. That is a reflection of the test, and the Red Bull is on a different planet. That is what hurts because they are so far ahead. It reminds me of our best years when we were a second ahead of everybody else. That is the benchmark." He did manage to add a few positive thoughts at the end, saying they won't give up and that they will go step by step and not rush things. Revealing that this package had been expected to benefit the W14 with 3/10 of lap time, Wolff has reaffirmed his comments before the race that the team must now look for stronger solutions. "I think it needs to be much more radical in the steps than just hope for a 3/10 upgrade," he said. "I think it's just radical. They, Aston Martin, deserve to be where they are because they did a fantastic job. The good news for us is that there is a lot of Mercedes in there, so we know exactly where to pinpoint it, and that will be helpful in the recovery." Another former Mercedes driver had his thoughts on the team's position. Nico Rosberg didn't think Mercedes would have trouble again at the start of the new Formula One season. The former world champion sees that his old team is having trouble and starts to question the car's design. This year there were some changes to the rules about how high the floor of the car could be. Rosberg doesn't think this has helped Mercedes, even though the German racing team insisted on a similar rule change last year. It sounds like they were in a difficult position, unfortunately in a way that they didn't suspect. They changed the regulations at the end of last year, lifting the floor up. It seems that it was disadvantageous again for Mercedes and its concept. It made it even more difficult for them somehow, the German told Sky Sports. Mercedes is struggling, although Rosberg does not think anything needs to change within the team. Above all, he thinks it needs time. I don't think that Mercedes need fresh ideas or new people into the design team. I know the people that are there. Toto has done a brilliant job with the succession planning, bringing up the young talents. In terms of competence, the team is awesome. They've been caught out by this new ground effect era, and they are still learning the ropes. It takes a bit more time, I suppose. Mercedes qualified 6th and 7th for the first Grand Prix of 2023. This puts them behind the two Red Bulls and Ferraris, and behind Alonso. The German racing stable thus seems to be the fourth team for the time being, something they are not used to. Mercedes won all Constructors' Championships in the early years of the turbo hybrid era, but since the introduction of the new 2022 rules, Toto Wolff's team has struggled. Mercedes was behind Red Bull going into the weekend, but it wasn't clear how far behind they were. Now that the race is over, it's clear as day. We also know that Mercedes is giving up on its current design because it doesn't seem to be as fast as the other cars. It's important to remember that the W14 isn't bouncing, it just doesn't have much speed. So what is Mercedes going to do next? By the time of the Imola race, the W14 should look very different from how it did before. However, Mercedes will have lost about 18 months of development time compared to its competitors on its concept. Mercedes is having trouble, so it's clear that Hamilton is at a crucial point in his career. After all of his success, Lewis could handle one bad year, and 2022 was his answer to Michael Schumacher's 2005. It was his way of getting even with him for always being good. Michael, on the other hand, was back where he belonged at the start of the next year and was free to try to win his 8th World Championship. At 38, another year with little possibilities may be too much to bear. Hamilton's questions about Mercedes' car design bordered on rebellion at times in Bahrain, and Toto Wolff's admission after the first qualifying session of the season that they had made a mistake contradicted what his technical team said on Friday when they were still confident in the zero long-term pod's potential. That could be the issue, the bone of contention that will determine Hamilton's future in F1 because he's yet to sign a new deal. Is Wolff's current challenge, which could be the most difficult of his career at Mercedes, to strike the correct balance between the team's long-term success and the short-term needs of a driver who doesn't have time to waste? Hamilton has stated that he will remain in Formula One for as long as it takes to win his 8th title, or as he stated in the most recent season of Drive to Survive, to reclaim the championship that was taken from me. But there may come a point when he must confront the truth. With Verstappen and Red Bull almost set to win more races for the remainder of the current regulations cycle, and Mercedes' George Russell becoming a more serious danger, a major decision may need to be taken shortly. He's not going to be around long enough to see himself as a runner-up. What are your thoughts on Mercedes' Bahrain Grand Prix? Could they recover from a poor performance in time for the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time? Let us know in the comments section below, and we'll see you in the next video.